Hey guys, I'm Dave and welcome to the Trull Gallery. Today, we're going to repair my Bosch table saw. About a week ago, I noticed that the blade on my table saw was slowing down a lot faster than usual when I was shutting it off. I pulled up the parts diagram and noticed that there were 3 bearings on the motor shaft assembly. So I contacted Bosch customer support and asked them if I needed to replace all 3. They were pretty sure it was just the one farthest from the blade, so I ordered that. While I was waiting for that to come in, I figured I could get away with 1 or 2 more cuts. And then this happened. Whatever was failing in the motor finally locked up. I could move the blade, but it was as far as it could be from spinning freely. To start the repair, I removed the blade. Then I set the throat plate and the fence aside. After removing the mounting bolts, I turned the saw over and set it as carefully as possible on the stand. It's not really stable, but it's a comfortable working height. Even though I almost always use the saw with the shop vac hooked up, there's still 3 years of dust in there. I removed as much as I could with the shop vac, then hit it with compressed air to clean out the nooks and crannies. This is one of the times that it's good to work in an open garage with some big fans blowing. There was a lot of dust left in there. I like to work with a parts breakdown when I can. I downloaded this page from the manufacturer's website and it gives me a roadmap to what I'm working on. For better access to the motor, I tilted it to 45 degrees. Before I can take off the rear cover, I have to remove the brushes. I used a stubby flat-tip screwdriver to unscrew the cover, then carefully grabbed the spring end of the brush and pulled it out. Then I could do the same thing on the other side. Since I'm not really sure what I'm getting into here, I carefully set each of the parts on a table so nothing gets lost. That rear cover is held on with 4 screws. Once I broke them loose, I could back them off with a screwdriver. A little pulling and a little wiggling and I could slide that cover off. A quick inspection and I was pretty sure the Bosch technician was right. That end bearing was more than fried. The good news is the rest of the shaft seemed to spin freely. I made a quick trip to Harbor Freight to grab a pulley puller, since I'm tired of calling friends whenever I need one. The 3-legged version evenly disperses the pulling pressure, but they can be a bit fussy until they grab. Once it was set, I used a ratchet to break the pulley loose. The tip of the puller was larger than the shaft opening on the bearing, so I had to get a little creative. I put a small socket between the puller and the shaft, and that gave me just enough clearance to remove the bearing. Here you can see just how bad this bearing was. I'm not sure when it should have been replaced, but clearly it was way before today. It's totally blackened, and a few of the bearings from the inside are missing. Looking at the shaft, I realized the face of the bearing was still on there. This is the replacement bearing, all shiny and smooth. I ordered it from Bosch and the bearing with shipping came to just under $15. I looked for the same bearing online, but I couldn't find it for less than $20. I'm sure there's a better way to seat the bearing, but I just tapped it onto the shaft with a rubber mallet until it was fully seated. Before reassembly, I looked at the inside of the rear cover. It needed a little cleanup, and the other face of the old bearing was stuck in there. I used a long, straight-bladed screwdriver to dig out all the gunk that was down there so that the new bearing would slide into place. I gave the shaft a test spin to make sure everything was moving smoothly and there were no evil grinding sounds. Happy with that, I could replace the rear cover. Just make sure to move gently while sliding things in place over the armature. You don't want to damage anything else at this point. The 4 screws were reinserted. It least most of the way at first. I've learned not to tighten things down until all your fasteners are in place. Once they're all started, you can go back and tighten them down. If your brushes are in good condition, you can reinsert them next. I'm putting mine in for now, but they're pretty worn out and I'm going to replace them before using the saw. Getting the brushes to slide into their tracks is easy enough. Getting the spring-loaded brass holder thingy into those tracks takes a little patience. The real tricky part is getting the brush cap back in place without having the spring kick out that brass holder. Just take your time and you'll get it eventually. Then you can tighten the cap and put in the other brush assembly. The new brushes are going to take a few days to get here, but you can see here that the blade spins easily and there's no grinding or binding. I'll be back in business in no time. And if you're wondering, that new set of brushes set me back just over $10, and that includes shipping. This simple repair cost me $25, and that included replacing my brushes. It only took me an hour or two to complete, not counting the trip to Harbor Freight. And I probably would have caught this issue sooner, but since I usually work with earbuds, hearing protection, and the shop vac running, I never had a chance to hear that bearing start to fail. It wasn't until I noticed the blade slowing down faster than usual that I knew there was a problem. Now, it's always best to make these repairs sooner than later before more damage can be created. I guess I just got lucky. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this video. Is there something I could have done differently? Easier, smarter, more efficiently? Drop them in the comments below. I'd also love to hear if you've solved problems like this on your own with some of your power tools. If you enjoyed this video, maybe give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, maybe it's time to hit that subscribe button and little bell so you get notified each time I put out a new video. As usual, I'm not real sure what's coming up next. This video certainly wasn't planned, but hopefully it'll be something you'll find interesting. So until then, have a great day, stay safe, and take care. We'll see you soon.